The single biggest lie we've been told is that the adult brain is fixed and rigid. Stop accepting that learning stops. We'll show you the scientific truth and the 3 intentional activities that instantly hack your brain's hardware to learn any skill at any age. Let's get into it.
Look, this isn't just some feel-good, motivational quote. No. This is a direct challenge to a belief that has held millions of people back. We're not talking about talent or genetics or some kind of lottery you lost at birth. We are talking about deliberately manipulating the physical hardware of your brain. For decades, we thought the brain was like a machine, built in childhood and then it just wore down. Science has now proven that is completely, totally false. Your brain is designed to change, and today we're going to hand you the operating manual.
So, here's our roadmap. First, we're going to completely dismantle the lie of the fixed brain. Then, we'll pinpoint the real barrier, your mindset. After that, it's all about the solution, the exact 3-phase system for learning, the science that proves it works, and an action plan you can start today. And we'll wrap up by redefining what your potential really means.
All right, section 1, the lie of the fixed brain. This is the big one. It's the paradigm shift that makes everything else we're about to talk about possible. This right here, this is the scientific proof. Neuroplasticity isn't some theory, it's a fundamental property of your brain. It's not a static computer chip that just degrades over time. It's more like a living, dynamic electrical grid. It's constantly rerouting, strengthening, and building new connections based on one simple principle: what you demand of it. Your focus, your effort, your actions. You are the engineer, literally shaping its physical structure every single second of your life. Okay, so if our brains are that adaptable, why do so many of us feel stuck? Why do we hit plateaus? Well, the answer isn't in our biology, it's in our psychology. And that brings us to the invisible wall to mastery. Think of this as 2 completely different operating systems for your brain. On the left, you've got that fixed mindset. You know the voice, right? I'm too old for this, I'm just not a natural. It's the whisper that says you've missed your chance. But on the right, you have the growth mindset. And this isn't just wishful thinking, it's an understanding of the fundamental truth of neuroplasticity. That effort isn't just about trying hard, it is the biological trigger that builds the skill. And here's the kicker. This has a real, measurable biological cost. When you believe your abilities are capped, you subconsciously seek comfort. You avoid the very challenges that tell your brain to grow. You stick to the easy path, scrolling, rewatching shows, those low-effort routines, and that starves your brain of the stimulation it needs to build new pathways. So a fixed mindset doesn't just hold you back, it literally prevents your own evolution. So how do we systematically break through that wall? We need a system, a protocol rooted in actual biology. This brings us to section 3, the 3-phase learning system. Think of this as your brain's operating manual for getting good at things fast. The entire system is built on 3 phases. You can't skip any of them. First, an intentional challenge to kick off the learning process. Second, something called myelin formation, which makes that learning permanent and fast. And third, active recovery to lock in the skill. It's just like building muscle. The challenge is the workout, the myelin is the protein that rebuilds the fibers stronger, and recovery is the rest that makes the growth happen. Miss one, and the whole system falls apart. Okay, let's break down phase 1. Learning is not passive. It's not triggered by comfort, it is triggered only by difficulty. You have to engage in what we call deep work. Total, uninterrupted, intense focus on a task that's just a little bit beyond what you can currently do. This is the challenge zone. If it feels easy, you're not learning, you're just performing. That feeling of strain, of frustration, of reaching for something you can't quite get, that's not failure. That is the sound of your brain building new connections. So once you've fired up those new connections, you gotta make them efficient. That's phase 2. Every neural circuit in your brain is wrapped in a fatty sheath called myelin. Think of it like the insulation around a copper wire. The more you use a circuit correctly, the more layers of myelin get wrapped around it. This process makes the signal faster and more accurate, turning a clunky, conscious effort into something fast and automatic. And how do you build it? High repetition practice with relentless, immediate error correction. Every mistake you catch and fix adds another layer of insulation to the right pathway. And that brings us to the most misunderstood and honestly, the most critical phase of learning. You don't get better when you're practicing, you get better when you're sleeping. High-quality sleep is not optional. It is a mandatory, active part of skill acquisition. While you sleep, your brain is working hard, replaying the tough stuff from the day, strengthening the important neural connections, and pruning away the ones that don't matter. Without this nightly consolidation, all that hard work you put in can basically just vanish. All right, now let's pop the hood and see what's really going on. It's one thing to know the system, but it's another to understand why it works on a chemical level. This section is all about the biological proof. So let's talk about the MVP of learning, a protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. The best way to think about it is like miracle grow for your brain. It's this powerful protein that helps your existing neurons survive, and more importantly, it encourages the growth of brand new ones. And what's the single best way to get your brain to release it? You guessed it, the intense, focused effort of that intentional challenge phase. When you push yourself into that zone of difficulty, you are literally flooding your brain with the exact chemical it needs to grow. This breaks down the whole biological cycle perfectly. The intentional challenge releases that BDNF fertilizer. Your intense focus then does something amazing. It's like putting little chemical flags on the new connections that basically say, hey, this one's important, strengthen it. Scientists call this synaptic tagging. Then, when you sleep, your brain scans for those tags and gets to work, locking them into long-term memory. All the while, your high-rep practice is building up that myelin, making the whole circuit faster and automatic. See? Every single part of the three-phase system has a direct biological job to do. Which brings us to the most important part of this whole thing, turning the science into action. Section 5 is your instant action protocol. This is how you start today, not tomorrow, today. Don't think about mastering a new language in a year. Don't even think about finishing a chapter in a week. I want you to focus on just one number, 20. 20 minutes. That's it. This is your entry point. It's the minimum effective dose to kill procrastination and start that entire biological cascade of growth we've been talking about. Here's the protocol. It's simple and direct. Step 1, the 20-minute challenge zone. Pick one tiny part of the skill you want to learn. Set a timer for 20 minutes and give it 100% of your focus. No phone, no browser tabs, zero distractions. That's your BDNF trigger. Step 2, the Myelin Loop. During those 20 minutes, you're going to focus on high reps and be your own toughest coach. I mean, immediately correct every single error. That's your myelin building session. And step 3, non-negotiable consolidation. Treat your 7 to 8 hours of sleep tonight as the final, most important rep. This is where the skill becomes permanent.
And here's a pro tip to really maximize that third phase. You need to implement a strict digital quarantine for at least 30 minutes before you go to bed. The blue light from screens messes with your sleep hormones, sure, but it's more than that. The constant flood of new information from your phone actually stops your brain from switching into the consolidation mode it needs to file away what you just learned. Protect that time. It is sacred.
And that brings us to our final and most critical takeaway. This is about completely rewriting the very idea of your own personal limits. This is the bottom line. Forget everything you've been told about age or talent or being a natural. Neuroplasticity proves your potential is not some fixed trait you were born with. It is a direct result of the quality and intensity of your intentional effort. Your brain doesn't care how old you are. It doesn't care about your past failures. It only cares about the signals you are sending it right now in this moment. You are the architect of your own mind. So the real question, the only question left, is this. What are you going to master in your first 20-minute sprint? Look, this whole thing, neuroplasticity, it matters because it completely solves the problem of feeling like you've hit a learning limit. It gives you a systematic, a repeatable way to get better at anything, at any age. It all comes back to that framework. The challenge zone to release that BDNF, that brain fertilizer. The Myelin Loop to make it fast, and non-negotiable sleep to lock it all in. Just remember, productivity isn't about just doing more. It's about mastering systems that make your focus completely effortless. Now, go build your potential.